Hello and welcome to another edition of the Up Your Assets podcast. My name is Ray Ferrara, CFP, founder and executive chair of Provise Management Group, LLC. Our podcasts are educational in nature and not designed for personalized advice. Please speak with your financial advisor, attorney, or CPA before making any financial moves. So, additionally, no guest on our podcast pays to be on the show. We do not endorse any products or services, and the opinions expressed by our guests are clearly their own and not necessarily those of Up Your Assets. Today, we're going to discuss the basics of Social Security. The origins of Social Security in the United States trace back to the Great Depression era, specifically to President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal initiatives. Faced with widespread poverty and economic hardship, Roosevelt established the Committee on Economic Security in 1934 to develop a comprehensive social insurance program. This led to the Social Security Act, signed into law on August 14, 1935, which established a system of old age benefits, unemployment insurance, and aid for dependent mothers and children. Social Security has evolved over time with amendments and expansions to include disability benefits, survivor benefits, and cost of living adjustments. To help us with the basics of Social Security, today's guest is Mary Beth Franklin. Mary Beth and I first met about 15 years ago, and Mary Beth is one of the country's leading experts on Social Security and Medicare. An award-winning journalist and certified financial planner, a professional, Mary Beth offers in-person and online seminars about Social Security, Medicare, and retirement income planning. She is a former contributing columnist on retirement issues for Investment News, a publication for financial advisors. Mary Beth is the host of the public television program Social Security and You. Her ebook, Maximizing Social Security Benefits, is available for purchase at her website, www.marybethfranklin.com. Editor and publisher recognized Mary Beth on Retirement column in Investment News with an Epi Award for Best Business Blog of 2021. In 2016, the Women's Institute for a Secure Retirement honored Mary Beth with a Hero Award for her efforts to improve retirement security for women. She also serves on the CFP Board's Women's Initiative Council, which focuses on improving gender and racial diversity in the financial services profession. Previously, Mary Beth served as the tax and retirement editor for Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine and editor of Kiplinger's annual retirement planning guide. Earlier in her career, Mary Beth was a Capitol Hill reporter for United Press International. She is a frequent guest on numerous radio and television programs and previously hosted her own podcast, The Retirement Repair Shop, for 7 seasons. And with that, let's just say, Mary Beth, welcome to the Up Your Assets podcast.
Thanks, Ray. I'm delighted to be a guest on your podcast.
You know, and I just want to make sure, for full disclosure to everybody, we are good friends. We have collaborated together on a couple of articles from time to time, and it's just delightful to have you here. So let's start in on the basics of Social Security. What is the important role Social Security benefits end up playing in an overall retirement income plan?
Well, for most Americans, Social Security is a critical element of their retirement income plan, particularly in this era of disappearing pensions. For so many Americans, Social Security may be the only source of guaranteed income they can count on every month for the rest of their lives, no matter how long they live.
And, you know, importantly, not only is it there for the rest of their life, but it's inflation adjusted, as we'll be discussing more about that as we go along.
Absolutely. The idea of adjusting those Social Security benefits each year to keep pace with inflation helps retirees maintain their buying power throughout retirement. Now, of course, if you ask the average retiree, they're going to tell you that that cost of living adjustment isn't enough, but it certainly helps.
So let's stay on that for a moment. You know, when most consumers think of inflation adjustment, they think of the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. But Social Security doesn't use the CPI. They use a different gauge of inflation. A lot of criticism around it. Why don't we take a few minutes and talk about the difference between the two and why the government doesn't use the CPI?
Well, when the government is measuring general inflation, it tends to use the Consumer Price Index, which records inflation monthly and on an annual basis. Social Security has its own quirky form using a basic consumer price index, but it takes the average of that index for the third quarter of the year, July, August, and September, and then compares it to the average index of the previous year. The increase from one year to the next results in the cost of living adjustment. The problem with this is we tend to see gas price increases during the summer as the fuel recipe changes and people are hitting the road on vacation. And we tend to get a spike in gas prices during the summer. And that spike is often reflected in the cost of living adjustment as applies to Social Security benefit. For a couple years, we had some enormous increases, 8.5%, 5.8%. Well, this year, 2025, we have a 2.5% increase, which is low compared to recent years, but on an average is about what Social Security benefits has increased on an annual basis over the last 20 years. So it's right in line with the average.
Well, it's clearly it's better than let's say a guaranteed annuity, as an example, which would also provide a monthly benefit, but doesn't generally have that cost of living increase attached to it.
That's true. And even people who are lucky enough to have private pensions from a former employer, it's highly unusual for pensions to have a cost of living adjustment. It is more typical for people who have a military pension, a federal government pension, or in some cases, pensions from a state government.
So, Maribeth, how do I qualify for Social Security benefits?
It is a you must pay to play kind of game. Every year that you work, generally you contribute a portion of your gross wages up to a certain dollar amount to fund Social Security. You pay 6.2% of your gross wages, and your employer matches that amount for a combination of 12.4%. And each year there's a limit of how much your wages can be taxed. In 2025, that limit is $176,100. That means if you make up to that amount of money, a portion of all of your earnings is taxed to fund your future Social Security benefits. If you earn more than this year's $176,100 max, you do not pay Social Security FICA taxes on the excess. However, there is a small portion of the payroll tax that funds Medicare, and that applies to all your earnings, even those above the taxable maximum.
Well, Maribeth, you say it comes out of the paycheck. Each employee and then each employer both pay an equal amount into the system. What's the rate of this tax? And you just talked about the cap on it. Is the cap also adjusted for inflation?
Yes, Ray. The combination of what employees and employers pay is 12.4% combined, 6.2% each on gross wages up to $176,100. That wage amount, that cap, goes up each year with cost of living as well. And what that means is if you are a lifetime earner, your benefits are based on the amount you have earned over your lifetime. Social Security considers your average lifetime earnings as the top 35 years of earnings. So if you're a mega earner making, say, $500,000 a year, your benefits are only going to be based on up to those taxable maximums each year. This year, $176,000 and change. The key is you have to work and pay taxes for at least 10 years to be eligible for future Social Security benefits. Each year, you can earn up to 4 credits per year, and you need a minimum of 40 credits, therefore at least 10 years of covered earnings to be eligible for your future Social Security benefits. Once you get those minimum 40 credits, they're on your record forever. You will get a benefit in the future. But that doesn't tell you how much you would get. That depends on two other important factors. Your average lifetime earnings, again, based on your top 35 years of earnings. Let's say you worked 40 years. So those lowest earning years when you were flipping burgers at McDonald's or delivering newspapers, those drop out. But for people who don't work 35 years, say you stayed home and raised your kids, and you have 20 years of covered earnings, that means you're going to have 15 years of zeros when Social Security averages out your 35 years of lifetime earnings. The good news is every year that you continue to work, regardless of your age, even if you're already receiving Social Security benefits, if you have earnings that either replace a 0 year in the past or are higher than one of the years that was previously used in your benefits formula, your future Social Security benefits will automatically increase.
Well, so do the 10 years have to all be continuous, or can they start and stop to get the 40 quarters in?
The 10 years can stop and start. It's just over your lifetime, you need at least 10 years of covered employment where you are paying Social Security benefits. Now, the other important part of the benefit equation is your age when you first claim benefits. It is going to determine how much you are going to get each month for the rest of your life. Most people, you have a choice. You can claim benefits at the earliest age of 62. Or you could wait all the way up till age 70 to get the biggest benefit possible. People have what's called a full retirement age, and that's determined by your birth year. If you're born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. So let's say your benefit at your full retirement age of 67 is $2,000 a month. But you decide to claim at the earliest age of 62. That's 5 years before your full retirement age. Well, you can do that, but you're not going to get your $2,000 a month. If you do, you are going to get a 30% haircut for the rest of your life. You're going to get about $1,400 a month. However, if you are willing and able to delay claiming benefit, there's a huge payoff. For every year you are able to postpone claiming benefits beyond your full retirement age up to age 70, you earn an extra 8% per year. So here's that example again. Your full retirement age is 67. If you claimed at 67, you get 100% of those benefits that you have worked so hard for and paid so much for in the form of FICA taxes. But if you're willing to delay up until age 70, that's 3 years past your full retirement age of 67, earning an extra 8% a year in delayed retirement credits. That results in a whopping 24% increase in your Social Security benefits by the time you're age 70. But here's the big difference. The difference between claiming at the earliest age of 62, when you get a 30% haircut, 70% of your full retirement age benefits, versus waiting until the maximum age of age 70, when you'd get 124% of your full retirement age benefits, results in a 77% increase in your monthly Social Security benefits for the rest of your life. Now, as a certified financial planning professional, there's no investment that I can recommend to you that is guaranteed to increase essentially 77% by investing 8 years of your life.
So perhaps at some point we'll talk about why maybe people have to or want to take it at 62. But, in today's world, a lot of people are saying, well, gosh, Social Security's about to go bankrupt. I better start it as early as I can. But what I hear you saying is if you're in a financial position to delay it, you're best to delay it for as long as you possibly can. Is that clear? Is that correct?
For people who are essentially healthy enough, because it's a bit like the lottery. You must be present to win. If you're not going to live a long time, delaying till 70 may not have been the best choice. It's often an excellent choice for at least one member of a married couple, preferably the one with the bigger Social Security benefit, to wait up until age 70, because it means while both spouses are alive, at least one of them is going to have this maximum retirement benefit. And should that spouse, who is often the husband, who has often the biggest Social Security benefit because he's made more during his career and actuarially is likely to die first, that biggest retirement benefit will then likely translate into the largest possible survivor benefit for the remaining spouse.
You know, the good old days, Social Security used to send us annual statements every year to let us know where we were. Where can I find out what my benefit's going to be? How can I check to make sure that they recorded the right income, et cetera? How do I keep track of what the government's keeping track of?
Well, the most important thing for every working adult to do is to create their own special My Account at the Social Security website. It's very easy to do. They go to the official website, which is www.ssa.gov. That stands for Social Security Administration.gov. Right on the homepage, it will show you how to create your personal My Account. And once you do that, you will always have access to your personal earnings history, which records all the earnings you have made over your careers to date, how much you have paid in FICA taxes, both the portion that supports Social Security up to a certain dollar amount each year. And then if you look in the column that says Medicare taxes, that taxes all of your earnings. So it's a really more accurate picture of how much you have earned each year during your career. This My Account will also show you what your future Social Security benefits would be worth at various claiming ages. It will show you what your family member might be entitled to if you become disabled or if you die. So it's an incredibly important financial planning tool. And I encourage everybody to do it because, as you said, Ray, in the past, Social Security used to mail all of us these paper statements every year, usually about 3 months before our birthday. But frankly, that cost a lot of money. And Social Security did try to move most people onto this online record keeping. The only people who currently get an annual Social Security benefit statement in the mail are those who have not yet set up their own personal account.
All right, so that's ssa.gov is where I've got to go. You know, Mary Beth, go back to two things you have talked about. One was inflation adjustment, and then the other was by delaying till age 70 versus taking it at 62. That I think you said it was a 77% differential. But
Right.
because
It's a
of
huge
inflation,
boost.
yeah, but because of inflation, if I live a long time, that differential really expands very quickly because the compounding on 62 versus the compounding on 70 as we go forward adds to that differential, does it not?
True. If you are able to wait as long as possible, which in this case is 70, to collect the biggest benefit possible, now you're starting with a bigger base. And each year that a cost of living adjustment is applied, you're applying that annual increase to a larger base dollar amount that's going to result in you getting a bigger raise each year. And here's something else to keep in mind that surprises people. Each year that you are eligible for Social Security, starting at age 62, up until the time you actually claim your benefits, you will also receive every one of those cost of living adjustments that were awarded since the time you became eligible at 62. So a lot of people think, oh, if I wait, I'm missing out on these big cost of living adjustments. No, you're not. They're baked in automatically to your future benefits, so you're not losing anything.
Well, that leads nicely into the next question. We've talked about all the reasons that somebody should consider waiting until as late as they can if they're in a financial position to do so. But under what circumstances should I take it as early as I can or earlier than my full retirement age or age 70? What would cause me to take it earlier?
Well, there are several reasons. One is if you're in poor health and not likely to live to average life expectancy, you may want to go ahead and claim your benefit early. Yes, your benefit would be reduced compared to what it would at full retirement age, but if you have a shortened lifespan, you'll be getting more checks by starting them early. The only caveat here is, again, with married couples. If, say, the higher earning spouse, the husband in this example, maybe receives a terminal diagnosis, and yes, he could claim early, but in the overall scheme of things, he might not want to because his widow's survivor benefit is going to be based on what he collected at the time he died or what he would have been entitled to if he died before claiming. So if his goal is to create a larger survivor benefit for his widow, in some cases, it would make sense for him to delay claiming. Another reason people might want to claim early is, frankly, if you need the money. I cannot tell you how many people I talked to who lost their jobs during COVID or chose to retire early because of health concerns. Those sort of early retirements really can wreck a carefully planned retirement income plan. And if your plans change due to your work situation, you may want to go ahead and claim benefits early. There's two other circumstances where it might make sense to claim early. In some cases, people like to retire early and work part-time. Well, if you're working part-time and making less than the annual earnings cap, which this year is about $23,000 a year, you could retire early, claim your reduced Social Security benefits, and work and receive a modest amount of money. The problem that many people don't realize is if you claim benefits before your full retirement age and continue to work. Now, this is earnings from wages or from self-employment income. And if you make too much money, as I said, this year it's about $23,000 a year, well, now you are going to forfeit some or possibly all of your Social Security benefits if you make too much money. You lose $1 in benefits for every $2 over the earnings limit. But that money's not gone forever. Once you get to your full retirement age, the earnings restrictions disappear, and any benefits you have forfeited because you made too much money are actually returned to you in the form of larger monthly benefits once you get to full retirement age. But I generally encourage people, if you are going to keep working, don't claim Social Security benefits early, because the accounting can be nightmarish. And if it turns out, let's say 2-3 years down the road, Social Security sends you a letter that said, oops, looks like we overpaid you $33,000. We'd like that back right now in a lump sum. And if you don't have the money, don't worry about it. We'll just withhold all of your Social Security benefits until that debt is paid. Now, most people don't want to get into that circumstance. So bottom line, if you plan to keep working beyond age 62, don't claim benefits early. Wait until at least your full retirement age when the earnings restrictions disappear, or if you retire before your full retirement age and you're not subject to earnings restrictions.
So if I take money before age 67, which is full retirement from, I think you said people born on or before 1960.
1960 or later, yeah.
Yeah, later. So if I take it at 62, I've got this earnings test, and I'm going to lose money if I earn too much. I think you said it was $23,000 this year. So I lose money. Let's take the example of where I've waited until full retirement, and I take my money, or any time after that, and I continue to work. And so I'm continuing to pay Social Security. Those years that I work after I start taking Social Security is better than one of those other 35 years that you mentioned before. Does my benefit get a kick up, not only because I worked another year, but because I have a higher year and dropped off a lower year?
Yes, any year where you continue to work and your current earnings are higher than a previous year used in your calculation, your benefit will automatically increase. You tend to get a notice around October of, say, the current year that says, we are adjusting your benefits forward based on your most recent earnings. It's happened to me each year, the last few years. It happens automatically, and it might not be a big increase. You might get an extra $5, an extra $10, but it does automatically happen.
So who else, besides, we've been talking about retirement benefits, who else might qualify for Social Security, maybe even before age 62?
Well, if you are married and you are entitled to Social Security benefits, it's possible that your spouse may also be entitled to a spousal benefit. A spousal benefit is worth up to half of the worker's full retirement age benefit. So let's say husband's benefit is $2,000 a month. Let's say his wife has stayed home, taking care of their family the whole time, has no Social Security benefit of her own. She hasn't accrued those minimum 40 credits need for Social Security benefit, but she's married to him. So once he claims his Social Security benefit, it now triggers a Social Security benefit for her. If she claims a Social Security spousal benefit at her full retirement age or later, she is going to receive the maximum spousal benefit worth 50% of her husband or wife's full retirement age benefit. She can claim benefits even earlier as age 62, but if she does, that benefit is permanently reduced. Now, in most cases these days with dual income couples, most wives have a Social Security benefit of their own, and technically they're entitled to a spousal benefit as well. But whenever you're eligible for more than one Social Security benefit, you're going to get the higher of the two, not both. So let's say husband's benefit is $2,000 a month. Half of that, the maximum spousal benefit, is $1,000 a month. If the wife has no benefit of her own, she's going to get the $1,000 a month. If her own benefit on her own earnings record is, say, $500 a month, she's still going to get the full $1,000, but half of it's on her own record and the other half is topped up by the spousal benefit. But, which happens a lot these days, let's say her own retirement benefit is bigger than the spousal benefit. Her own retirement benefit is, say, $1,500 a month, which is larger than the $1,000 a month she would have gotten as a spouse. When she files for Social Security, she is going to get the larger of the two amounts, which in this case is on her own retirement record. But there's one other thing to keep in mind for married couples. If her husband dies first, now she's eligible for a survivor benefit. And a retirement benefit and a survivor benefit represents two different pots of money. And if she's eligible for both, it's quite possible she can take one type of benefit first and switch to the larger amount later.
Well, Mary Beth, thanks so much for helping us understand the basics of Social Security today. It's a complicated process and not a decision to be made lightly. And certainly encourage all of our listeners at Up Your Assets podcast to visit with their financial advisor. Go to your website, get your book, the ebook that's out there, to learn more about it, because it is a complex maze. And in our next session on Social Security, we're going to be talking about some of the strategies that people need to be thinking about as they make that very important decision to accept Social Security benefits. So thanks so much for being with us today, and look forward to chatting in our next podcast.
Great. Thanks, Ray.